Welcome, everybody. This is exciting. So for our, it's a little different time frame from those who are used to us doing this in the US during the day, but we have a very special guest today, all the way from down under, or yeah, I guess that's how we'd say that. Rocco, no, I know I said your last name.
Come on,
Ancora.
you can do it. Yes.
Ancora.
Yes.
Yes.
Well
All right. Perfect. All the way from Australia. So that's why we're on a different time frame right now. And super excited. I've got to work with Rocco, I think, a couple times now at various events, and always brings in the crowd. Your work is absolutely incredible. So excited to have on the webinar series. So give us a little intro about who you are.
Okay. I'm me, you're you, and everybody else, which is wonderful. Okay, so yeah, I'm from Melbourne, Australia, so the bottom tip of Australia. So it's currently morning here, or getting approaching the middle of the day actually. So yeah, we're in lockdown like everybody else. So it's, you know, things have been a bit tough, but I've been a professional photographer working professionally in the industry now for 26 years. So my career began as a wedding slash portrait photographer, but now all sorts of stuff, mainly geared around people photography, from, you know, commercial and, you know, a little bit of editorial, and yeah, anything to do with people. So yeah, as of late, we haven't done a lot of work because of the COVID restrictions, but yeah, looking forward to getting back into the swing of things soon, very, very soon. Yeah.
Now, how did you get into this creative world of photography? You know, what led you down that path?
Yeah, that's yeah. Someone gave me a camera once, and that was it. Now, to cut a long story short, my original plan was actually to become an architectural designer, and with all good intention, that's how I started my career post school, and that's what I wanted to do. Until one day I picked up a camera, and we kind of had to, you know, as far as the assignments in that particular genre of that I was studying, we had to take pictures of streetscapes and buildings, and then talk about impacts on environment and so on and so forth. And I picked up this camera, and I never picked up a camera before. And I mean, I was always creative at school as far as music and art. I mean, I always enjoyed that through high school, but never really considered it as a serious career in the creative kind of world. I mean, I was a musician, and still am a musician. I'm a, you know, drummer and played in many bands, but never considered music as a serious artistic form of making a living, and definitely nothing to do with photography or drawing or painting or anything like that. So I picked up this camera, started taking pictures, and I fell in love. I literally fell in love with this medium. And I was more interested about the fact that I was able to take these pictures and what I could express with the pictures than my actual love for architectural design. So that was the end of that. And the hardest thing for me was trying to break the news to my parents that I wasn't going to pursue that career anymore. That was hard. And become a creative being as a photographer. And, you know, and family, as family do, you know, they have their best interest always in mind. And how are you going to make a living was the first question I was asked by a family member. How will you live? Well, I think I'm doing okay.
Yeah, what a blessing to be able to do what you love. I mean, it's just, and you're so talented. And those of us who follow you and learn from you are very grateful that you've went down this path. Because you elevate those who work with you and those who see your work. You really take that to the next level, and you capture those moments, you capture those stories that's happening, and that's one of my favorite things about your work is you look at an image and you're just drawn into that world that you just captured.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think for me, the photography part, I mean, I love the technical. So obviously having coming from a technical background as far as design, I love the technical elements that make up a picture. But really, that's a very small part of what makes a compelling photograph. You know, you kind of learn as you progress through photography, and the whole idea of self-expression. It's more about, and when you're photographing people, it's more about connecting with the subject and drawing something out And we do that, several different ways. But I guess probably one of the key things that enables me to do that, and I learned this early on in my career, my photographic career, was the ability to use light to draw emotion. So, those who are familiar with my images, that I love dark, moody images. I love to sculpt with light. I love to shape things, and lighting is a big component of creating emotion in your pictures.
Now, when you started off, obviously you're definitely, I'm assuming you went into the strobe world and understood that, and then
Yep.
Eventually you came across continuous lighting. Like, tell us
Yeah.
about that transition and that journey from strobe to continuous.
So back in the day when we shot film, like negative film, and the dinosaurs roamed the earth, and all the rage. Yeah, I mean, we obviously I learned strobe in the studio and all that sort of stuff. But what I enjoyed was the ability to work with continuous light more. And continuous light, I would take continuous light out on location, especially as a wedding photographer. Now, we used to take these battery packs and these hot lights, and I still have the burn marks on my hands to to show for it. This is before LED technology was even a thing. What I loved about continuous light then, number one, I could play with obviously being film, I could play with color temperature. I mean, you can still play with color temperature now, but you've got a lot more control in post than you did on an egg. So I play with color temperature and add warmth to an image. And also I could sculpt a face in real time by moving this light. So it gave me a sense of predictable results in real time, and that was awesome, because what I captured is actually what I set up as far as my lighting was concerned. It got a little bit tricky when we were trying to obviously get nice, beautiful skin tones that weren't overly warm, and working with gels and so on the lights, which then melted away because the lights got too hot. But it was an interesting journey, and I loved the ability to use continuous light. And then I remember when LED first came in and you could buy those LED flashlights, I would actually take LED flashlights to weddings, and I first started just using them to do detail shots. But then that sort of evolved into even doing portraits with them. And I remember having a small shoot-through umbrella, and I would put this light behind it, and I would get my assistant to hold it, and I would get this beautiful soft light. Even though it wasn't the best color temperature in the world, it kind of didn't really matter, because digital had just sort of started coming in, and we could go into Photoshop, and we had a lot more control of what we could do with the color temperature of light. So yeah, continuous light has always been part of my lighting arsenal, especially when you're trying to create that mood and that quietness to your images. Now, when I talk about quietness, I mean flash. I find flash, when you're trying to create a moody image, flash is quite loud, because when the flash goes off, the subject is very much aware of what's going on. Whereas continuous light, I'm able to, especially in the studio environment, I'm able to set the lights, they're constant, and then it becomes just a conversation with the subject, and things kind of evolve from there, and you kind of click away. Now with mirrorless technology and silent shutters, the subject a lot of the time is even aware that they're being photographed, and it becomes this really beautiful, fluid way of working. I'm loving it. So yeah.
Wow. One thing you mentioned, those LED flashlights, I would light paint with those for night stuff, and we would take the hotel pillowcases to put the flashlight in to soften that light. So it's funny you mentioned doing a similar thing with the weddings.
Yeah, it's crazy.
You mentioned connecting with the subject. That is a big part of your work. Sometimes connecting with subjects isn't necessarily something you can really teach to photographers necessarily. Some of it's very organic, but for those who are starting out, what advice would you give about connecting with your subjects? That's a very important aspect of shooting portraits and families.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it really comes down to understanding who you're photographing and getting as much information as you possibly can. With a lot of the portrait commissions that I get now, there's an extensive process in sculpting out a personality in my mind as to who you are and what you're about. And then it's, believe it or not, it's just the power of conversation to be able to connect with someone. And really, it's nothing more than earning their trust, because if people trust you, they give you things, and what you want them to give you is them, the real them, as opposed to, I'm now standing in front of a camera with a light, and this is the personified reflection of who I want you to think I am, right? So it's really that power of conversation and that element of trust, and that element of connection, which really makes the biggest difference. I learned early on, when I was working for a studio many years ago, and I was taught that as far as being able to connect and being able to get people to do things in front of a camera, you almost have to become them, because you become a mirror of what you want your subject to be. So if you bring negative vibes at a shoot, negative vibes will come back. And I'm a really strong believer of that. If you want happiness at a shoot, well, then you've got to bring that to the table. A lot of photographers get really caught up about, I can't photograph kids because I can't get the connection there. Well, you can't get the connection because to photograph a child, you have to be a child. You have to remember what it's like to be a child. And that's probably the best possible example that I could give. But just remembering you are a mirror of what you want them to be, and then everything else just evolves from there. So connection, that's how we get to connection.
Oh, that's great advice. I like that. That's why we get down on our knees with the kids. We're there with the kids. And then, of course, after shooting kids, you're exhausted because you give all that energy with them. But that's part of our job. That's what we do. Exactly. And I love it.
Exactly. I think we give a little bit of ourselves in every picture, really, because that exhaustion and energy is really part of what we do.
I agree. Now, Rhodolite comes along. Continuous lights. It almost seems like it was a perfect match. You're already involved, and then this beautiful light comes out. Oh my gosh!
My relationship with Rhodolite isn't that long. I've now started using Rhodolite since probably September last year. So before that, I was using any LED light panel that I could find on the market, and a lot of the times I'd be different makes, and at first I thought, okay, LED's LED, how different can it be? But when you start talking about portrait photography and skin tones and correct color, and not all LEDs are made the same.
No.
And
No.
And I started using Rhodolite. I started off with a Neo and fell in love with it, and then progressed from there. I was shooting mainly strobe in the studio. Because as far as large LEDs, I didn't really consider that per se. And then the Rhodolite range came along, and it's given me a different kind of option of what I can use in the studio. I'm using now the Innova 2, which is an amazing light. But I'm excited about the new products also that I'm yet to try, with obviously the Titan and the smaller Titans that are going to be out, more powerful, diffusion built in. So it's going to streamline what I do a lot more. But I think the Rhodolite journey has been brief for me, because we kind of had all these shoots planned, and we shot a fair bit till I guess March, and then everything stopped for us. So the work that you're about to see was all pre-COVID, and looking forward, I have shoots planned now for hopefully October, November, but fingers crossed that we can get out and go to the studio and shoot some stuff, so we can put some more content online.
Yeah, absolutely. And for those watching or will be watching, so the Titan X2, within the next couple of weeks, the flash functionality is going to be ready, which means, imagine this, you can strobe any color you can possibly imagine in the world with digital diffusion. And I know my head is excited just to it's almost overwhelmed with what am I going to shoot first? What? But then the 1x1 version of the RGB is going to come out December, January. And so that one's going to be definitely more appealing to the photographers with that size, make it more portable. But having digital diffusion on a light is going to be fantastic. But you also mentioned about seeing some work. So let's dive into some of your work and some BTS and let's chat about it.
Yeah. So, I mean, as far as, like I said, the studio work is concerned, I'm using one Anova and a little Neo. So that's pretty much it. So I'm going to share my screen so we can go through the sort of the presentation. Here we go. And you can see what I'm using. There it is. So that's basically it at the moment. Now I'm a strong believer that you want to make things as simple as possible when it comes to lighting. So learning how to master a single light, which is how I was taught to shoot portraits to begin with, which was a single window light, and then progression of that into the studio with one light, one softbox, and all the different things that you could do with one light. And of course, the Anova provides the main key in illumination, and then the Neo is perfect for either fill, hair light, or because it's of the variable color temperature, we can actually dial in warmth and create some pretty exciting stuff as far as hair light. And you'll see in some of the pictures of what I've done with the warmer light. But also placing it in when you're working out on location, the Neo, you can put it in places where you don't think there's a light there and create this kind of ambience, which is really, really cool. So the studio type setup, you can see just how simple I like to keep things. On the Anova, we have the softbox there, which of course with different diffusion materials, and then of course scrims and all sorts of stuff. I just thought I'd just throw that picture in. But really, at the end of the day, lighting, whether you're using a continuous, it doesn't matter what light you're using, you have to master the three most important things, which is direction, diffusion, and intensity. There's nothing more than that, really. If you understand how lighting direction affects your picture, then you're well on your way. And then of course diffusion. All diffusion does is controls how your shadows look, but more importantly, the transition between your highlights and your shadows. If we have no diffusion, we have an abrupt change. So we're technical, and we can call that the penumbra, which is the shadow transfer, basically, if you'd like to call it that. So the bigger the diffusion, the smoother that transition, and no diffusion, we're going to get a harsh line. Now, there's no right or wrong. It all depends on what you're trying to convey, what message and mood you're trying to convey in your pictures. And of course, intensity. Intensity is extremely important. And you want a light, I guess, a continuous light that is going to be powerful enough so that, if you pull it back further, if you're lighting a larger area and you increase the intensity, you can light a bigger area. Just simple inverse square law stuff. And I know that a lot of the LEDs that are out there aren't quite as powerful as the rotor lights. Controller great feature of the rotor light is that if I need more power, there is a strobe feature that I can activate through a controller, so I can get more intensity and use them as a strobe as well. Sometimes I might use the strobe to freeze action per se, so that's kind of like a little added bonus. So the majority of the use I get out of the rotor lights is a continuous light, but then of course that added benefit of having a flash as well, which is pretty awesome. So my mantra when it comes to photography is all about shadows. So the more shadows, the shadows really give us depth in a picture, and they give us volume. Okay, so there's a lot of photographers out there who are obsessed with filling, and filling is great, but if it's needed. However, don't be afraid of shadows. Embrace the darkness, as they say. Sorry, big Star Wars fan there. I didn't come out too much. All right, let's have a look at the studio and a typical setup for a portrait. So you can see behind the V-flats. So I use V-flats a lot because V-flats allow me then to, the white side and the black side. The black side allows me to cut light away. So basically creating lighting with black. That's the terminology that we use. So I can take light away, and then of course using the white side to actually reflect light back. So here I've got an Anova behind the V-flats with a rotor light illuminator, which is really a shoot-through umbrella, which is sealed at the back so you don't get light spillage. So you get this really nice, beautiful dome of light. And of course, the addition of the V-flats allows me to control that dome. And you can see the little Neo up on top. which is going to be used for hair light. So just a very, very simple simple setup for this portrait, and this was the result. So I wanted that nice, beautiful softness to the light. You can see just how the light just gradually sort of comes around because of the large light source that, of course, then we can channel through through different openings and all sorts of stuff. One of the things also I love to do is the ability to shoot light through things to basically create a new shape or something a little bit more interesting. So variations from that, exactly this. So bringing in, a black reflector close, so we have more intensity and more contrast. This results into this. You can see from the previous image that was quite a low contrast image. We have a little bit more contrast now because we've basically cut a little bit more light. There's nothing reflecting back, and you can see just the hair light up top that the little Neo is creating. So let's have a look at another variation of that. So just to show you just a different angle of that, you can see the illuminator in the back there, and just a sort of light that's coming across. So this was the behind the scenes shot, and we didn't change the model position. She was just waiting, getting ready for us to put our lights into place. So here you'll see in this shot here, we've got the illuminator shot through the little slit, and I could control that by opening and closing that slit with the V-flats. V-flats, it's just an awesome way to just modify your lights. They're inexpensive. I mean, these ones here I made myself, so and they're just so good. I just love them so much. In the hair light here, we increased the color temperature on the Neo, so we had a little bit more warmth to accentuate just the color over here a little bit more. And yeah, we had a nice sort of pleasant complementary color thing going on with her dress and the warm light, and then of course the daylight aspect of it, coming through, illuminating her face. So nice and simple. Once again, we go now to the illuminator and one light source. You can see here just the position of it. So we got this beautiful dome of light coming from above, resulting in this kind of light or shape, and really light's coming from the top, and you can see sort of the light that the nose is, or the shadow that the nose is casting on the cheek, the softness to that, and it's it's just a beautiful light. The illuminator is just so good at achieving that beautiful soft spread of light. But having said that, the soft boxes that come with the Nova are pretty amazing. So once again, the V flat coming in to subtract the light, and then we've got, of course, I've got the Nova and the soft box. And there's two levels of diffusion you can get with this. You can get the almost like a narrow diffusion, so it almost channels the light in one direction, almost like putting an egg crate on the light, but not quite as intense. And then you've got the diffusion, soft diffusion, which just diffuses the light. I think in this particular instance, we use the tighter diffusion, so the more direct diffusion. I don't know the correct name for it, but I just know that it works, and it works well. And this was the result. So almost like channeling the light into one direction. And then of course you can see the effect here of the black V flat, creating that nice sort of shadow which separates the subject from the background. Variation on that light, again, shooting through the V flats, using the light, and yeah, because I've got such like this is one light, and because of the power, I mean, we're still able to create a nice, beautiful, high key environment without the need for strobes, which is pretty awesome. But what I love the most about these, I guess, is also just the color of them. The color is just so beautiful, and the way it renders skin tone, it's just, let's just say it's delicious, if I can use that word.
Yes.
All right, let's have a look at other setups. So once again, the V flats, putting it in front of the light and just obscuring partially the light. And you can see here what we have. We've got, you can see my mouse moving on the screen, yeah?
Yes.
Yeah. So you can see here, you know, the light is being partially obscured by the V flat, and we're creating hair light going in the, or I guess more like split light running across edge light, sorry, coming across from the back. So it'll be lighting in one direction and then the opposite direction, and we're kind of taking, you know, shading the background, so we're getting a little bit of light, but not a lot. And this is how that resulted. So you've got the little Neo just chiseling the light, or chiseling the subject, the light coming from the back there, and then you've got that nice, beautiful light being the main light source, but also being partially obscured, which just adds the contrast. So even though the ANOVA is a large light, we can take it out on location, and with the V-Lock batteries, I can use it out on location. So the next series I'll show you, actually I'll show the behind the scenes of this. We were photographing, the whole idea was to photograph this girl with her horse. We tried putting the horse there with the girl, and it wasn't going to happen because the horse freaked out totally. So we kind of had to do it in 2 stages and then combine the 2 frames. So we had the subject here. We had Jodie with the ANOVA and the little Neo creating the light, and then of course we did the same with the horse, and then we combined the 2 frames. So and that was a lot of fun. So you can see the environment. We're shooting in their shed on their farm. So that was the environment that we were in, and this is the resulting picture from that shoot. So yeah, and the whole idea was to sort of shoot it in the same way so that the height of the horse wasn't too, yeah. So it worked. It worked really, really well. But so to get this shot, Jodie is just on the other side of the horse, and she's pulling on the reins so that the horse feels quite relaxed, because they got the horses. I don't know if you've ever experienced dealing with horses, and so much personality to this horse. It was almost like he was camera shy, you know. It was bizarre. It was almost like he wanted to talk, but couldn't. But amazing energy, amazing animals, so majestic.
Well, and
so
imagine just the continuous light helped too. Like if it was strobes, he probably would be no thank you.
No, as it was kind of challenging, because when we brought the horse into the shed and saw the light, it kind of like started to freak out a bit. But you can imagine if that light was a strobe and the light goes off and this horse just takes off, and that's the end.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Environment.
Oh,
yeah. Wow, so that was beautiful. Beautiful portrait. And this now, I mean, you know, the client in this particular scenario, nice, beautiful canvas print, and that's just beautiful. It's just yeah, I wish I could show you the print of this, because it was just absolutely gorgeous. So being innovative a little bit more. So here we were shooting in a studio environment, and we got a hold of this old movie light that had no actual light in it. So we stuck a Neo in there.
Oh wow!
we stuck a Neo with some gaffer tape, and then we altered the color temperature to mimic that sort of warm light. So this was the final setup that we had. So you can see the Neo that's been switched on inside the light there. So this is what we had. So then we had a smoke machine for this particular shoot. This was actually was a couple shoot. It was an engagement shoot. So we ended up with that, and here's some of the pics from it. So and this was the result.
Oh,
from
wow.
That beautiful Hollywood style, you know, lighting, reminiscent of you know, even though she wasn't quite wearing 1940s gear, but you know, the whole look and vibe was what was just that, you know, that Hollywood, you know, George Hurrell lighting. Yeah, there's another variation of that with the color version, and it was just beautiful. And you can see the hair light that the Neo is creating, that warm light. I like to work a lot with different, you know, color temperatures. This is why I can't wait to get my hands on the Titan series, because I can then dial in any color temperature I want, so we can start creating some pretty interesting environments with that. So I really can't wait for that. and then of course variations of them as a couple. So light position, as I said, is extremely important. So you saw from this series here just the softbox on the Anova. We then put that on up on a boom stand and got that really up nice and high. We created this nice, beautiful control, beam of light. So with the narrow diffuser on it, just sort of coming from above. So we've got this nice, beautiful sculpting light. And this is just a one light portrait. And then just playing around with the idea of bouncing the light. So we had the Neo. So imagine the Neo now. In the next shot, the Neo is turned against the white V flat. So the white V flat now becomes this broad source of light, and we're getting this kind of scenario as well. So just turning it and using a surface to bounce it off. Sometimes I might use a small card as well, white card with some C-stance, and then reflecting a little Neo off it just to give me a little bit of kick and just give me this nice, beautiful, the soft, diffused. The soft, wow, diffused light. We've been in lockdown for a while. I've kind of forgotten how to speak to people.
I know.
It's kind of really weird.
I'm the same way. Yeah. I'm like, oh, adults, yay. Oh.
Yeah. So this next series, this one here, now there's a bit of a story to this because every time I tell people this, people don't believe it. But this was shot at SWPP on the Rotolight stand in front of a live studio audience, just watching. And the area that we had to work with was pretty small. And I had a little Neo again, and you can see the Neo, the warm light just spilling on the shoulder in the back there. And then we had a Nova just with a grid on it. So channeling the light just purely in one direction. So diffuser as well as a grid. So we had this nice, beautiful, soft channeled light, and this is what we created. So it was a lot of fun actually, because to be able to work in such a small environment and still create beautiful results in quick and real time, it was pretty exciting. And this next one is just a variation of that, just moving the light around and playing around just with the light. So here we've kind of now turned the light ever so slightly. So we're feathering the light on the subject. So we're getting that beautiful light on the shoulder, but also light is also spilling a little bit on the background as well. Yeah. So we've got that nice, beautiful spill of light. So really it's about nothing more than just the same light positioned differently. So working with the edge of the light, working with the center of the light, and then working with different diffusion materials to achieve the desired look. And the next one is from that series as well. So the same sort of thing. And this is all, that's just a little, fold out backdrop. Like the setup, I don't have any behind the scenes of this, but the setup was just, but if you jump on my Instagram, in my stories, you'll see some archive stories of when I was there shooting this. This was back in January. And it was just a lot of fun. It was really cool. And, for people to see this in real time and see that the light actually works and it's all about light position, and it got people excited about continuous lighting, which is really cool, because I'm really excited about continuous lighting, as you can see. Yeah, and then taking the light once again out on location. This shoot here actually was from when we were in New York last. Was it October? Wasn't it? We were in New York.
Yeah, it was. It was for one of the trade shows. Was it? What was it for? It was a Photo Plus, I think.
Yeah, it was Photo Plus. So this was taken not during Photo Plus. This was a shoot that we had organised. But I took the Anova out, and so the background light that you see here, and this was actually in just a parking garage. So they were just red tiles on a wall. So that light in the background is actually the available ambient light that's there. So they had these kind of spotlights sort of lighting the wall. And it was kind of a little bit cool. And then the light on her is once again just an Anova, sort of just lighting the face just on a stand, which was really, really cool. And the same thing, variation, just finding a concrete wall, which is the next shot that you'll see. And then just making the light a little bit warmer. We had some ambient light here, so you can see that slight coolness sort of coming through. So that was good, because then it allowed us to play with that warm, cool kind of scenario. So warming up the color temperature on the ANOVA, and just once again using it as feathered light. So part of the light is lighting the subject, which is, you know, what this is. So we almost got a, you know, a short light kind of Rembrandt style lighting, where we have, you know, the light, the shadow caused by the nose, you know, breaching across into the cheek and creating that little triangle on the cheek. Okay, and then of course, you know, the rest of the light is just doing the work for the background. This next variation, that foreground bokeh you see, or is nothing more than little Christmas lights that I like to put in front of the lens, and then create that front bokeh. So I did this this trick per se live on the Rotolight stand at Photo Plus, and the next image that I'll show you is of that. And I did this in front of everyone just to show that it is possible. Okay, and this was shot on stage as well.
Ah, I remember that.
You remember that one?
Yes.
Yeah, so it's nothing more than little battery-operated Christmas lights, and you can buy them. You can buy them on eBay, Amazon, all sorts of stuff, and they're like $10. They're really, really cheap. And you scrunch them up. They're just these little wiry lights. You just put them in front of your lens, and you can shoot through it. And use when you're shooting wide open, you can use that front bokeh of you know, in front of your subject, and you can create some pretty interesting effects. And I mean, I take those out on location a lot, especially when I'm doing weddings. It just gives me a nice little element to play with as well. And then of course you can, you know, there are times you can get like different colored ones as well, which is what the other shot was. You can get different colored ones, but you can then like wrap them up in different colored gels, like cellophane, different colored cellophane as well. So you can kind of shoot through that, and it kind of gives you a nice, you know, a nice little effect. I mean, a lot of this stuff, people say, yeah, you can do that in post, but, you know, for me, it's always about the magic of creating it in camera and creating something interesting and unique each and every time. So sure, you can create it in post, but the ability to create it in camera and pretty much be part of your thought process, your creative process, because then once I bring it into post-production, the only thing I'm doing really is a little bit of skin retouching and, you know, some, I guess some color grading to get the, you know, the colors that I want and the color harmonies to kind of work. Yeah, and that's basically it. And the next shot is the shot without the Christmas lights in it. Okay, so that's what it would look like without these. Okay, so a single light, and then we just took the color out. Monochromatic. I love black and white, as you can see from my images. I love a lot of black and white stuff. Shot a lot of black and white. I still occasionally will shoot black and white film as well from a lot of my personal stuff, which is kind of a little bit cool. So that's a little bit of an insight into the portrait side of things. So any questions on this yet, Pam?
Yeah, I have some questions. Now, when you change that color temperature, when using different color temperatures, do you also adjust that color temperature within your camera settings as well?
It depends on what I want to do. You know, a lot of the times I won't, because if I'm bringing in a warm light, it's because I want to add warmth to the scene, especially like you know, as a hair light, or maybe just lighting a little bit of the background and give me that warm glow. Excuse me. Or sometimes if the warm light is the main light, okay, then I will set the camera to the warm light, because then I'll get my background to go that bluey kind of color. Okay, so it depends on what you want to achieve. Okay, and then of course the ability to, of course, shooting raw, we can alter that in post anyway, and make that decision later if you don't want to make it at the time of shooting. But I like to pretty much get it right as much as I possibly can at the time of the shoot, so that I know that if I've made that decision, it's for a reason, and it kind of makes the thought process a little bit easier, you know, later on. So there's your answer: yes and no, maybe.
Absolutely. And you do use a lot of the V flats and whatnot, which is great. Now, as someone who's getting into photography, understanding how to block that light out or how to let that light in is a big part of that storytelling. What's
Yeah.
some advice you would give to somebody as they start out to understand, you know, how, like you said, I think I'm answering the question myself, but you know, starting with that one light, mastering it, and then adding things into it. How do you approach setting up your V flats?
Well, the V flats, as I said, I mean, if you get the white and black ones, the black ones will take light away. The white ones can be used to reflect light. So you can imagine that if you want to basically equate the differences between your highlight and your shadows, or in other words, reduce the contrast, you can bring a white V flat in on the opposite side to your main light to fill in those shadows per se. Or if you want those shadows even to be harsher, depending on the environment you're working in, you would bring the black version of that, okay? The other way you can use the V flats, if you don't want to spend a lot of money on modifiers to begin with, your V flats, if you open them up obviously as a V, okay? The white side, you can bounce a light into the V, and then put some diffusion material over the front of that, and that becomes a massive then softbox that you can just set up, and it's vertical and it's beautiful, and then you can sort of move the subject, you know, in relation to the softbox to get, you know, different effects. But really, the best way to learn things is to position your light, don't move your light, put your subject in there. A lot of people, and myself included, when I first started learning, I actually got out and found a secondhand mannequin, and just putting a mannequin in front, or a mannequin head on a stand, and just moving it in front of the light will give you a really, really good idea. If you can't find a model, will give you a really good idea as to what the light is doing in relation to your subject. So just moving the subject back, moving the subject forward, turning the subject, and still leaving your light the same. It's a really, really good way to learn what light is doing. But really, when you break it all down, all you're doing when you're lighting something is you're creating shadows. Yeah. So you think about how you want your shadows to fall, and that will determine where your light kind of needs to be. So yeah.
Absolutely.
I hope that makes sense.
We have a couple questions. Matthew, well, and I think I can answer this too. So he's asking if the Anova, the solo version, if so, what's particular reason you selected that one? Matthew, the Anova that we're talking about is the Anova Pro 2. It's the latest version of the Anova. So the one that's behind my head. And what, I guess, is there any particular reason why you like that Anova?
Yeah, absolutely. Power.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the only reason. I mean, at the time, the Anova was the most powerful model in the range, but I believe now that's changed. So I can't wait to get my hands on some of the newer stuff. But yeah, it's just power, because the more powerful the light is, I guess it gives you options for your lighting, and the way you diffuse it, in the way that you manipulate it. You know, of course, these are all dimmable, so you can vary the intensity of the light, of course. But knowing that you can crank it right up and have a really, really powerful light that you can move back and light more of the scene, that's a handy thing to have, so that you don't have to sort of push your your ISO to ridiculous amount if you don't need to. So that's the reason.
Absolutely. Next question. Are your homemade V flats, are they foam core sheets taped together?
Yeah, absolutely. Nothing more than the foam core sheets. I mean, I guess in the US, you'd go to Home Depot and Depot, or however you pronounce it, and you'd go and buy some, and then there is a lot of really, really, really good tutorials online on how to construct V flats. And so it's foam core plus some gaffer tape, and then of course the most important part of them all is some Velcro strips, because the Velcro strips allow you to then fold them up and they stay together. So when you fold them down, they're sort of like a quarter of the size, and then you open them up and you fold them up, and you can just kind of move them around. So they're really good, even to take out on when we're doing location portrait shoots. They're really easy to pack in the car and take out. Obviously, I don't take them out at weddings because I like to keep my wedding kit as simple as possible as far as lighting on location, and pretty much the Neos are the only thing that come out on wedding shoots, but
well,
and nothing
speaking
else.
of weddings, since you started in the world of weddings, talk to us about your on location and how you
so
walk this process.
I'll give you a couple of examples of how I use them on a wedding. So let's have a look at some behind the scenes. So here is so you got to imagine like that. Obviously, that's a door. So the subject is inside that door, and it's behind this door here. Okay, so the whole secret to this is happening on the inside. However, on the inside, there's not a lot of light that's actually coming through. So I had an assistant stand about there, shooting a Neo through there, through the actual small window. As I said, the window then gives the light shape. Because it'll give the light that's coming out on the other side the shape of the window. So, and this was the shot that we created. Just using the Neo, warming the color temperature up a little bit, just to give us a little bit more interest. Okay, so but usually what I love about the continuous light aspect is the ability to bring a light into the scene. Okay, and then blending that light with the environment so that light actually looks natural. And the next shot will make sense as to how that's done. So let's see. Okay, so we've got the light in the background, which is the light of the actual lamps. Okay, now the light on her is coming from a Neo that's positioned just about there, coming across this way. So it's giving us the edge light here, but it's also lighting her face. Now, when you look at that as a viewer, you go, wow, that's just beautiful ambient lighting, because that's what it looks like. It looks like part of the ambient is there, and that light is just, light that just happens to be in the environment. So when I do use the continuous lights on location, it's about making them look, I guess, as invisible as you possibly can. I'm not sure if that kind of makes sense. Keeping the light invisible, but making it part of the picture. Okay, so so the next shot, the same sort of deal. It was we've got just one Neo here, as the bride was sort of playing with the veil, and the Neo is just on that side, and it's being diffused by the veil. So this was kind of the progression of the shots. So the focus is just here on the lips, on the expression, but just a different take on a different sort of style of bridal portrait. So yeah, just keeping it small, keeping it real as much as you possibly can. I hate sort of freaking out subjects at weddings with big lights as well. It's not something I like to do. A lot of my wedding work is very much, about the storytelling aspect of it. So little lights that don't freak people out are always good to have. So you'll see me a lot of the times either in dimly lit environments with the Neo, and then of course if I need flash for outdoor stuff, then I would use speed lights or something like that. That'll give me the power to overpower the sun, especially in summer here in Australia, which is pretty nasty. The sun is up there for forever. It's either up there or it's not there at all. So it's kind of brutal conditions here to shoot in summer. Okay, let's have a look at another one. Same thing, sort of bridal portrait. The light just out of frame there. Using the veil here just as a bit of a diffusion, get the light sort of to come across. And positioning of the hand was very important because I wanted the light to catch the ring there a little bit and give the diamond a little bit of a sparkle. And then what I love about this is that the veil on this side of the picture is actually acting as a fill. So it's lighting the earring on this side, and it's giving us this nice beautiful shadow detail that otherwise would not have been there. So just sort of bringing the veil around and just playing around and creating a nice, beautiful, moody portrait. And this was a variation from the same wedding, like I said, with the light just positioned above, okay, and just creating this. So we're totally creating the light 100%. So this is during the bridal preparations, and we just basically closed the drapes on the window and just brought this light in and just created something that was a little bit more emotive, and a little bit more, yeah, thought-provoking than just, yeah, smile, look at the camera. I mean, we did a lot of those, of course, but I guess couples that book me want that sort of creative edge to their lighting and the movie shots. Like, yeah, and this one was another variation of that as well. Different wedding. You can see here the warm color on her and the warm color in the background. Warm color in the background is just the lamp in the room that she was getting ready in. So just to show you, you know, just how we sort of marry that foreground and background. And this other one, this one here. So this, so we just arrived at the reception venue. So there is still inside the bridal car. So I got them to stay in there. We're inside once again underneath the venue, underneath the hotel, and it's so you've got a parking garage, nothing more, which was pretty dark. So they were being dropped off, and to create this sort of light, I've got my assistant with a Neo behind the car, but not lighting them from the back. They're kind of just lighting the whole back window, if that makes sense. So you can see the telltale signs in the back left-hand corner where the light is kind of coming from there. But that gave me enough light to bounce off them and inside the car, because I'm shooting now from the front of the car through the front windscreen into them to create this nice beautiful moment. So yeah, and that's how that was done. So
beautiful.
Yeah. So this is a bit of an insight on how I kind of use the lightings out on weddings, and this is one of the last weddings that we shot before we all got locked up. I mean, locked down, whatever you want to call
locked
it.
And that's yeah, I like it. How that happened. No, this is fantastic. Understanding those examples, I think, helps spur that what's the word I'm looking for? The imagination going, the excitement, the passion, you name it. Just watching those BTS scenes and seeing the stories that came out, it's inspiring. It's beautiful, and I'm already excited to do my next headshot, even though it's just a headshot. So, well, we are wrapping. I can't believe it's already been almost an hour. Where can we find you on the interwebs, whether it's Twitter?
Yeah, I'm glad you. I forgot to put up the last slide. Silly me. So I'll just put the details up of that. So this is where you can find me. So at roccoancora.com, where you'll find me as a photographer, or capture2print.com.au. So we also, those of you who don't know, I've also run a post-production and fine art printing company. So so we do everything from post-processing through from anything from Lightroom corrections to to high-end retouching for publications and so on, and also the fine art printing component as well. So I strongly believe that you need to print your work.
We could talk another hour about printing. Absolutely. Yeah, I will get on a soapbox and tell you, as a personal thing, my sister printed one of my star pictures, and I've never seen it printed in person. So when I showed up to her house literally last week, and I was like, that's mine? Oh, it's just, it gives you this, like, really, it feels good to see her work printed, and it's
absolutely. And I think sort of the printing thing has two components. One is because you're creating something that is personal for someone. Okay, that becomes a very powerful tool when you're selling to a client. Number two, it makes you a better photographer, because any shortcomings in your photography will really be exploded in print. Because you look at the print a very different way as you look at a screen. It's kind of, there's a very different thought process of when we view a print and when we view just something on a screen, which I could talk about for hours as far as printing and all that sort of stuff. But so that's where you can find me. And there's in the process of doing some educational stuff as well, some educational videos on a lot of things. Mainly the whole printing component and post-production, but I was in the process of putting together something as for lighting, which is hopefully going to be filmed later in the year, incorporating the rotor lights in and all that sort of stuff. So yeah, just watch this space, because that'll be really good. Because I get asked a lot, how do you light, how do you do this, and
Yeah.
I love sharing. I love teaching as well, and we do a lot of one-on-ones with photographers, especially via Zoom, as far as teaching them anything from lighting to post-production to all sorts of weird and wonderful stuff. So and that's been kind of really cool. But before that, of course, we used to do workshops, which we can't do anymore because we're not allowed to talk to people in person.
Someday we'll be back on a plane.
Yeah, someday. Can't wait to come back to the US one day if we're allowed.
Yeah, right. Well, I appreciate you coming on. We do have a Rhodolite user group. In fact, if you just search Rhodolite user group, you'll find us. So go in there, you can ask more questions. Rocco, I believe you're in the group, aren't you? We'll get you in the group.
Yeah, I think I am in the group.
Yay. Well, I'll post the YouTube link on there. We'll answer any more questions regarding that, and we'll post whenever our next webinar is going to be. We might take a little bit of break, but we have some really exciting guests that are in line coming down the road. But Rocco, you are phenomenal. I appreciate you coming on and sharing your wealth of knowledge with us and helping us get better to the next level, and look forward to getting a Titan sent out to you as well. And
it'd be great to use, and it'd be great to create some content for you guys.
Well, thank you so much, and stay safe. Let's get lives back to normal soon.
Yeah, thanks for having me on, guys.
All right.
And thanks.
All right. Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.